Hey everyone, welcome on YouTube, welcome on Facebook Live. I always wait a few minutes for people to join me on Facebook Live, so zip ahead a few minutes. We're going to talk about quantum jumping today from a spiritual perspective as well as from a science perspective, so wait a while to get on. I'm on the Monterey coast in California, and it is the most beautiful time of the year. So we don't get the changing leaves, we don't get the cooler weathers, it pretty much stays the same, but we do get less fog. So the fog has kind of disappeared off the Monterey coast and we get more sun right now. So it's beautiful. So I think you're going to love what I'm talking about today because I love it. So let me wait a minute to get started and we'll talk about what's behind this. Is it just mystical? Is it just science? What is it? How do we apply this to our life? I hope you're having a great day. This is my favorite time of the year. I love it. It's like suddenly around the end of August, beginning of September, suddenly the fog goes. So again, I say to everybody, sometimes it's a shock to me because I haven't lived this close to the coast, but if you're going to visit the coast of California, please don't go in July and August, Monterey or San Francisco Bay Area, because the fog is rolling in. You're not going to get this beach weather. So let's get started. I want to welcome the people on YouTube. I want to welcome the people that are going to join us on the replay. I'm going to take my time. This is an incredible topic. I'm going to go slow. Let me tell you why I do this. I was an education, science, math major in university. I took tons of math, chemistry, some physics, lots of biology, lots of marine biology. I love science. When I deconstructed from some beliefs that I no longer hold, it was science and the views of entanglement and oneness that God so magnificently shows us in the microcosm. What do I mean by the microcosm? I mean that which is invisible, the subatomic particles, the entanglement that has been shown to be true in science is manifested on a beautiful level in our humanity. When I began to see those things, my whole spiritual walk changed in so many ways. And I started exploring topics that they just come to me week after week because I am curious and I love to read. So I approach spirituality through science because I'm kind of in awe that God or source, divine mind, like Max Planck says, who emanated out of God, the existence of the universe, did it with such intricacy that it would be foolish of us to see that a God who designed the universe and everything with such intricacy would not also design our lives, so be it. You know, he designed our lives, or God designed our lives in a creative expression, not to move in linear time, predictable and boring, but to move with a sense of expectation that we can shift into different realities. This isn't woo-woo, this isn't mystical, this is reality. Jesus did that, which we'll talk about. You may not agree with me, it's okay. You're not going to change my mind. So science and spirituality is my lens. I love science, and I always have. I see clearly this intricacy, as the Hermetic principle says, as above, so below. So as above is indicating that within the field, there is all the potential. There is entanglement. This is oneness. And that is represented, and it is spirit slowed down to visibility. It is incarnation. It is our humanity in the essence of who you are, whatever way you want to say it. We are a lower vibrational energy, which means we are in flesh. We are not in energy or in total spirit. So we vibrate, but we are told to be in the world and not of the world. This is across many spiritual platforms. This is not just one belief, okay? So what I also want to say is that in order to get started, I want to teach you a little bit of science. So for those who are going to catch on the replay, I want to go very slow because this is reality, and many of you have experienced this, whether you know you've experienced it or not. This is the reality of your life, and many times you have quantum jumped into different realities, into different ways. It is not so mystical that it's so woo-woo that it's just, it's relegated to intuitives or someone that you perceive as more spiritual. It is a real principle in science, and it is magnified in our lives in a mystical or allegorical sense, but it is real. So let me say some quotes I learned from books. Quantum jumping is the process by which a person envisions some desired result or state of being that is different from the existing situation they find themselves in. And by clearly observing that possibility of being different and then supplying the sufficient energy makes a leap into that alternate reality. It is not dependent how much you travail, how much you pray, how much you beg, how much you seek, how much you move in ego. The potential of the quantum jumps are already in the field for your life. They are in the field ready to access when you increase your ability to be intuitive and aware of the synchronicities that are presenting themselves in your life. Those aha moments where you go, geez, where did this come from? And you don't negate it. You don't push it away. You embrace it and you wonder what source is trying to tell you. So this quantum jumping is a process. It is not random. It is not coming from out of nowhere. It is not instantaneous as if it just like appears. I believe we are prepared for our quantum jumps because, as I said, it is in the field, the entanglement of the field, the entanglement in source. I am the field. I am in the field as the field. This is all resident within me. I'm not looking outside myself for something to change my life. I'm looking within, always looking within. So another quote is, we are capable of taking hundreds of quantum leaps in any given day, making decisions that seem non-consequential or inconsequential or small at the time, yet that have the collective power to entirely transform our lives. You want to talk about, let's talk about Jesus. Could talk about Buddha, any number of wisdom ascended, beautiful masters of wisdom that were trying to teach us quantum realities and living in the world and not of the world. When Jesus went that day to the well, you don't think that was a quantum jump for that woman waiting at the well? She went to the well for one reason. Jesus went to show her that there was going to be a magnificent quantum jump in her life that was going to put her into a totally different reality from where she came from. What about the woman with the issue of blood? You don't think that when she felt that she was supposed to touch someone or something, that she didn't know that she was going to quantum jump into a realm of healing that totally changed her reality? Did she plan that day? I'm not so sure. But there are quantum jumps that are all over spiritual text and spiritual learning. So we're capable of these. While in the universe, all of you exists, and your awareness of who you are coalesces in one reality. You're in one reality at a time. Yet quantum physicists say that we are in a multiverse in this universe of many parallel realities. Kabbalah says that we have access to many different versions of ourselves. I believe you never disentangle from yourself. You're not separating from yourself, but in a journey called life, you're always going to change into different versions of yourself that are a greater expression. Perhaps you've dreamed of doing this. Perhaps it's the essence of who you are. You are never stuck in one position, no matter your physical condition, no matter your mental condition, your social condition. You are in the field as the field, and you have the potential to change your life. And it comes with intention, and it comes with belief. So to the universe, your awareness of who you are is in this reality. I am in this reality right now, and I can leave another reality. I'm going to show you how my life shifted a reality, and I was never the same, and I never went back to that other reality, ever. It was manifested in the physical realm. So let's talk a little bit about a science understanding of quantum. So stay with me. The idea behind quantum jumping is that we are living in a multiverse of parallel universes. I believe this is true. I believe a holographic principle of reality, and you can search out other videos I've done on a hologram, that we are a fractal, and we are a fractal of God living out in what could be called a simulation, but to express the beauty of our humanity, to express the beauty of our incarnation. This simulation that we're living under or in is not meant to be robotic. It is meant to be the beautiful expression of our humanity in time. That's why we're here. So we are a fractal of God, manifesting all the potential that we have in us. All the potential. So what happens is that we live with these parallel realities, but how many do we see? How many do we really believe? Do we live such a low-level, vibrational, mundane, mediocre exactly. Do we live in such a low vibration that we expect no more from our days than what the linear world, the 3D world, demands of us? If we live that way, then that's all we're going to get. If we set our intention in abiding in the fears that surround us, or that's all I get, or whatever terminal diagnosis we get, whatever has enslaved us to a narrative less than who we are, will keep us enslaved to staying in that reality. And you are more than that reality. There are many different versions of you. So then it says that these alternate realities may not have a connection to one another. They're all flowing from the essence of who you are, but they're expanded versions that you move from one to another in an expanded way, definitely with greater love, definitely with greater compassion, because as you change into a different expression of yourself based upon a love energy, you're always going to shine with greater light. That's just a basic scientific principle. You're going to shine with greater light as you ascend into greater realities. So then it says that a quantum jump is kind of like a handshake through time and space. It's like you calling to you in another time, extending a hand and an invitation, never forced. Will you do this? Because you see, it depends upon my intuition. Because if I make that jump, I may be looked upon as crazy. I may be rejected from my new beliefs. I may be not accepted. I may have to walk in a different reality as a different person, learning new things. But I believe that you will be satisfied in the essence of who you are for having accepted that invitation to jump. So this handshake that says, come into this, is an invitation. And this connection forms a bridge that allows someone experiencing a quantum jump to physically end up in another reality. The connection is so total that a person can literally walk into it. So perhaps, just perhaps, this is what I believe, you don't have to believe it. We see a lot of people now expressing this I am reality. I am this. I don't believe that when Jesus said his I am statements, those were absolute truth by which we live our life. Yes, they are truth and they are wisdom, and we incorporate those into our life as I would incorporate any teaching or any method of spirituality. But what if those were his I am statements, that every time he embraced that I am statement, he jumped into a different reality? If he jumped into the reality of I am the way, the truth, and the life, then he saw himself as that kingdom dynamic in whichever way he flowed. So that's why he was in the world, not of the world. This is what I firmly believe. So I don't believe it's dogmatic. I don't believe Jesus ever told us to worship him. I don't even want to be like him. I want to follow what he's showing me to follow so that I can develop the purest, beautiful, most creative expression of myself. So let me tell you now some scientific background behind quantum jumps, because what you discover, physicists don't like to be metaphysical. Scientists in general, if you've never been exposed to any level of this, they love to have proof, a mathematical formula that defines the essence of what they believe, then they will accept it. They rarely move into a metaphysical reality that involves consciousness. It's almost heretical to them. So the physicists that do move that way, even at the end of their life, or write books on consciousness, they're often downplayed as somehow intermingling spirituality with science. Well, hello, how can you have science without spirituality? So they look for this theory of everything. So they want to prove something. So believe it or not, quantum jumps have been somewhat proven to be real and observed at a very small level. And that which is observed at the small subatomic level we will learn to play this out in our life. So some of the bizarre quantum behaviors hold up in the larger world. One study reported that 2/3 of physicists surveyed now believe that everything in material form, including us, exists in a superimposed state of many possible realities. That's called a fractal. That's called coming from into a holographic universe as a fractal of God with many different expressions. All over the world, people have experiences that might be best explained as involving alternate realities or parallel universes. People have had experiences of being in different times, having deja vu, or even dreaming that they're living another life in another place. At the same time, in trying to explain the observable world, scientists are leaning more towards the fact that we are in a parallel universe or reality in one universe in the multiverse. Folks, I do not for 1 second believe that this is the only universe this is. I do not believe we are the only created beings that exist. I never have. But we are in the reality in this earth realm, a beautiful planet that has a beautiful consciousness with our DNA as a beautiful expression, that we are in this realm to experience this realm in this life in parallel realities in this universe, in the context of many universes. Now, if that doesn't blow your mind, it should. But then what it should tell you is that you are limitless. You are prone to beautiful methods of expression. So in this multiverse, it's like a patchwork quilt of a universe that is bound by the laws of physics. So we are in time, space-time, we are in 3D realm, and we are in time in this universe, and we are allowed to express within that time, within that space, many different realities. If you've come here just to be one person, I feel sorry for you, because I'm going to tell you in a minute how my life changed when I simply responded to everything God put within me since I was a child. So this multiverse, it's not New Age thinking. It appropriates science in rational and distinct ways. So I want to talk to you about quantum jumps. What are they? What are they scientifically? What are they spiritually? Let's do science first. When we're talking about quantum, everybody's tossing out the verse quantum. Quantum this, do you know what quanta are? Do you know how they operate? Or are you just using that as a spiritual term without any scientific reality? Quanta are discrete packets of energy. A quanta is a photon of light. It's a discrete package of energy that is indivisible and invisible. And it makes up the basis of 99.9999% of all matter. So you're in this beautiful quantum reality, and you are manifested in the field as the field from source. So in this quantum reality, they determined what they saw was they were looking and they saw what appeared to be electrons or photons bursting with light. When this electron shifted to a higher excited state, it absorbed light to jump. Got that? It went from a ground state, it absorbed light, more light caused it to jump. You could probably speak on that forever. More light causes you to jump to higher states of ascension. So this electron that jumped, scientists looked, and then sometimes it went back down to the ground state, which meant that it then released the light. So electrons were seen jumping, but scientists were wondering, how are they jumping? They can't figure out. So there were competing quantum views at that time, because it went from a ground state to an excited state to a ground state. They absorbed energy. They transitioned to higher levels of excitation. They lost energy, but it was thought to be instantaneous or random, because it was thought at the time by some physicists that there's nothing in between that. And Einstein comes along and says, so the universe is built on chance? What do you mean there's got to be something that's causing that? So believe it or not, years later, it was in the 1980s, I believe, they were actually trying to observe some method of quantum jumping, and they did. They proceeded to believe, now follow me here, everything in the field, consciousness is the essence of the field. It's not matter, it's not energy, it is the all of source. What flows from that, what emanates from that is energy that then flows into light and into matter. So what happened is that they concluded that this is not instantaneous. That electron just doesn't spontaneously, without reason, jump. There's got to be something behind it. So they started thinking, well, there was a wave form behind it. So what it did is they were able then to see that it was the wave form. It wasn't instantaneous. It wasn't random. It wasn't a mystery. That there were jumps that electrons proceeded to jump to that had a reason behind them. And they're still exploring that. So I got to thinking, what if when we jump, what if instead of thinking that it's random and it's instantaneous and we have no power, life just hands us a mystery, we accept it without explaining anything, there's no concept to it, why don't we just jump? But most people, that just leaves them in religion with no power, because they're always being told a concept without actually being shown, no, you have power in your life. So what if this jump is inherent in the field? Since I am in the field, I am manifested as energy in the field. I manifest as energy here in a low vibrational energy. I come from the potential in the field as the field, and there is a blueprint and a potential for my life in the field with many alternate realities and many different expressions. So what if my life is not instantaneous and random? What if I'm being prepared for my quantum jumps? What if I just don't see them because I've been so programmed by the narrative of religion, or I've been programmed by a linear world that says if you can't see it, touch it, feel it, or smell it, it's not real? What if you've tried to move out in intuition and you've been downplayed as not quite so smart or not quite so intelligent, when to be in the world but not of the world relies more on our spiritual senses of our chakras and our auras and our intuitions that flow through us, through our synchronicities, than anything the linear world can show us. Now, so what happens is, what if then my quantum jumps are already in the field, and they are ways that I can jump into new realities, but I have to be able to see them. But if I'm so linear minded and nobody has shown me how to move an intuition, and I go into and I sit in a pew, I go into an office, I sit down into a computer. Creativity is never encouraged. Being intuitive is never encouraged. Being intuitive is the essence of the divine feminine. That's why everything's happening in the world today, because there's no commingling and fusion of the divine masculine and the divine feminine in everyone. Intuition is needed. So in the reality of the field, there is potential waiting for me. And it shows me that there are parallel realities in which I am to manifest that in time. I am curious. I am a traveler. I am adventurous. I am a dreamer. I am an intuitive. Now, how do I take those I am statements and manifest those in time, because they form the essence of my being? Your quantum jumps will occur from the essence of your being, and there's many different types of quantum jumps. So are you ready to manifest a different version of you? These jumps are coherent. They're not split up. You are not in any way fragmented. Your jumps are coherent. They are not random. They are not unpredictable. There is a certain predictability in the quantum world, which physicists believe will be able to be valued and seen in times to come. Right now, some of those things are, quote, a mystery. But I believe that the physicists who believe in consciousness, like Robert Lanza and David Bohm before he passed away, when they believe that consciousness integrates the field, they're going to be able to solve some of these mysteries, and those mysteries will never be solved through just a scientific linear approach, always looking for an answer. So, quantum jumps, they can be large movements, they can be small movements, they could appear not even to matter. Sometimes we do jumping and we don't even know. They're inconsequential. We don't even notice them in our day, but they have the power and they do transform a life. I am in time ready to manifest in the field and ready to emanate from the field. So perhaps, listen carefully, We fret. We always have to have a plan. And I'm talking to myself here. Ego always wants to have a plan. It always wants to have a way. But perhaps we're to rest in those in-between places where we appear to be lost. And many of us may feel that way right now. But those are places of increased coherence where energy starts to stir within us to produce an invitation to move into something that is utterly fantastic. But right away, we want to create something from the ego mind, or we want to move in a direction that's linear or that's understandable, or for any number of reasons. And I would say, stop. I want to say personally, when I start to show you the examples of how this has happened in my life, I lived like this. I will tell you, when fear or grief comes into your life, you succumb to a very low level vibration. And that's no judgment, because grief comes into our lives in many different ways, through losing loved ones, through divorce, any number of reasons. And when I experienced grief in 2019, through a whole year, a year of walking through esophageal cancer with my husband and watched what happened, I was so tired. I was at such a low vibrational reality of just making it through the day. And then COVID hit right after that I just went into this maintaining mode. Maintaining everything I was. I forgot. The curiosity vanished. The spontaneity vanished. I succumbed to narratives of fear and what if and what about my life now. And slowly but surely, through walking through the process of grief, and I would ask you to walk through your need for healing. When you walk through your need for healing, you're going to come out on the other side in a greater dimension of life. And that's what happened to me. So it's been 4.5 years. And so now I'm going, wait a minute. I kind of want that life again. Now, how could I have it in an upgraded version? So what I realized is that, let me give you some examples. And I might speak about this again next week, because this is a very intuitive topic and I could go on forever, and I don't. Let me tell you, yeah, Kathleen, survival mode. Let me tell you how I experienced quantum jumps. Take this for what you will. Just the other day, I found another dime. I find dimes over the past 10 years in obscure places. Honey, there's no reason I should find these dimes where I find them. I don't even carry change anymore. Nobody I know carries change anymore. Yet I am finding dimes in the most obscure places, in laundry rooms, in socks, that when I turn the sock out to dry, the dime falls. In places where they just are. And the dime to me always signifies, girl, you're on the right track. It's like the universe. It's a quantum jump into an increased measure of faith when I'm down, when I don't know what's going on, when I don't understand my life. It just so happens I sometimes find those dimes, and those dimes are a way of saying, hey, you're okay, keep on moving. So I quantum jump into a new realm of faith that says, okay, I don't get this, but I'm going to keep walking, which, by the way, don't hijack faith down to a Christian term. I'm not using it as a Christian term. When I say faith, it's a belief in myself that Source is speaking to me from the field as I am in the field, enlightening me to new avenues of knowledge within myself. So how do you experience quantum jumps? How have you, yeah, exactly. 10 means testimony. So I've known that for years. So every time I'm getting ready to experience a major quantum jump, I'm finding these dimes. And it's almost like Source is saying, honey, you ain't seen nothing yet. So how have you experienced things like that? Let me tell you a few other quantum jumps. There have been people, you might have experienced this, that are totally translated out of time. They start out on one path, and then what should take 3 hours, they're there in minutes. And they're there and they're wondering, did I go through a wormhole? How am I here? what time has transpired for me to be here? How do I know? There have been so many essences of people that have struggled with, like, there's a story out of thousands of a hurricane or tornado coming, and it was coming so fast. The only thing that people could do is jump down into this supposed ditch or cave, but they didn't know what was down there. They didn't know if they'd make it, and they jumped and they were safe. There's documented evidence of a young man who all this steel was going to fall upon him, and there was no way he would have escaped it alive. But the documented evidence showed he just sat there and he focused on the intention of life, and he was not touched. There are quantum realities through healings, miraculous healings, where 1 minute you're there and the next minute you don't have it. Those are quantum jumps into different realities. The list is endless, but I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite ones that changed my life. I never went back to who I was. This changed my life. Ever since I was a little girl, I grew up in Chicago. I used to go out in the backyard, even in the middle of winter, and I used to just want to be by myself. We had 3 trees in the backyard. Even in the snow, I would make angels in the snow, and my parents just let me go out when I was 8, 9, 10, and I always knew that I wanted to see the world. It was in my spiritual DNA that I wanted to see the world, that I knew that within me was a curiosity spirit, and I knew that I was different astrologically. I'm a Gemini. You can believe or not believe that, but we thrive on curiosity. We thrive on adventure as just one of our characteristics without going into great detail. I don't abide by all of it, but I am that. So over time, what happened though was that was kind of knocked out of me. I was surrounded by a lot of linear-minded people that didn't really want me to dream and didn't want me to explore, didn't want me to imagine. With good intentions, they wanted to lock me down to be successful in life and to be pragmatic, something I never was. So I lost some things along the way until a certain period of time when I was in Christianity and I was in the charismatic movement. Now, say what you will, there were some good things about it as far as flowing in the spirit. Well, I didn't even come into the church till I was 35. So I had a rip-roaring life up until 35. I was never hunkered down by religion. I was not raised in the church. So when I came in and I started reading the Bible, I thought, why aren't these people doing this? Like, why aren't they doing this? And yet I was always downplayed, like it was too mystical, stop thinking like that. So I just began to explore. And when I began to explore, I believe there were quantum jumps that provided themselves to synchronicities in my life through sometimes whispers. They would be whispers that I would have to accept the invitation even if it looked foolish. Like the day I was sitting and all of a sudden I heard this voice within me go, why don't you go to Detroit and just make several trips to Detroit, walk through the city, pray through the city, and I'm going to put you in contact with miraculous encounters. I do not have time to tell you right now, when I accepted that invitation with my intuition, I got hassle. People thought I was, what are you going for? I don't know. Why are you going? I don't know. And I just went. So to be intuitive, folks, you've got to be brave and you've got to be courageous and you've got to buck the system that's telling you to be normal and telling you to calm down and telling you to be less than what you are. So I did go to Detroit. That was my first experience of going into a city without any agenda and letting synchronicities lead me to places where people would be standing waiting for me, and churches that invited me to speak that had no idea who I was until I was like literally sitting in their parking lot, and the church secretary on a Saturday evening happened to be in the office, came out and said, can I help you? And I said, well, I don't know. And then she invited me to church the next day, and I ended up going up and praying for the whole congregation. Now, there were some really good things about Christianity. That quantum leap changed my reality. I thought, oh, heavens no, there is way more than this, and let's start exploring it. But I have to tell you that in the exploration of that, it was always religion and the patriarchy and evangelical Christianity that tried to shut me down, and that is why I personally am glad I left, never to go back, because they never hastened my creativity. They tried to still it and quiet it, which would have killed it. So in addition to Detroit, because I made that quantum jump into spontaneity, which was essence in my character, then other cities started appearing to me, and I started going. Miami, Raleigh, Fargo, North Dakota, Phoenix, Arizona. I just started getting on planes with people and saying, let's go and let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. And we did. And we walked in signs and wonders manifested in the physical reality. We walked in things that just increased my curiosity, going, oh my God, there's so much more to spirituality than people even take for granted. But again, I was told to be quiet, calm down. So I left. I left in 2000, never to go back. Now, when I left, you can stay, you can leave. I'm not judging you. I'm telling you my story. And this all goes into quantum jumping. Now, because I had responded to the synchronicities of all those years, which to people seemed absurd, to me they didn't. And I didn't try to prove myself. I was on a high. I thought, this is life. And it is not dependent upon money. It is not dependent upon position. It is dependent upon just accept the invitation. All the resources are available. The resources of life are available in the jump. The resources of finances are available in the jump. You would not make a jump unless every resource was already supplied for you. So then here comes the biggie. Damn, this changed my life. I will never be able to explain to you in words how my life shifted. We were living in Benicia, California at the time, and there were 3 of us praying in the living room, and I heard specifically within me, I have told you this story before, go to Helsinki. I had no idea what it meant. I'm a geography person. I knew where Finland was. I love travel. And I said, okay, why did I say okay? Because of the jumps that had come before that, increased my ability to believe that I could step in my intuition and it wouldn't harm me. And it may make me look like a fool. So we got on a plane, 3 of us, 4 months later, and we arrived in Helsinki. The end result of that decision had me living in Finland for 8 years. That changed my reality. In addition to living in Finland for 8 years, there were 6 years I never traveled back to the United States, and I was going in between Finland and Abu Dhabi, where my husband had a job. I never set foot in America over all those years. Now, how did that change my reality in responding to the jump? I moved into another alternate version of myself, a version that saw that the center of the world was not America. That I gained more compassion, more flexibility, more ability to see the oneness in different religions, in different people, not believe if you've never traveled out of this nation and you're believing the lie that this is all there is, it's a lie. We are so inadequate. And yes, we're a wonderful nation. We're with beautiful principles, but we are not all that there is. When you see the beauty, when I lived in the Middle East and my reality was shifted, I could not depend on any mindset, religious mindset or mindset as a woman, since I had no rights in Abu Dhabi, in the Middle East. My mindset as a Christian wasn't valid there because I was between 2 mosques that blasted their calls 5 times a day. I had to either fight the system or see what I had to learn. But since it was a quantum jump, and since I was a child, that curiosity was imbued in my being, I loved it and never wanted to come home. I never wanted to leave the Middle East. I ended up leaving Finland due to circumstances, but in that, I never came back. When I came back to the States, I saw everything different. I saw the narcissism, the controlled narrative. I saw so much, and unless you see it, You're going to call it a conspiracy theory. So if you're going to quantum jump, you're going to jump into a different reality that's going to shift your mind. It may shift your body. It may shift your spirit in ways that you can never imagine. I gained such a respect. There was no longer us versus them mentality, like Middle East is bad, United States is good. That's bullshit, folks. That's bullshit. So when you see the beauty of the love of the Muslim people for one another. And then you see other things demonstrated throughout the world as I traveled to Egypt and I traveled to the Middle East and I was in Africa all the time. Why was that? Because my quantum jumps involved travel. My quantum jumps involved curiosity. There was no way in hell that all those doors should have opened for me in Finland unless I took a jump. And where were they? They were already in the field, the blueprint, waiting to be worked out in my life. That's how it was. And I would encourage you, stop thinking your life is so small. Stop thinking your life is bound by the little town you live in, or the little place you go every week, or the job you have. Your life is so much greater than that. Now, those 4 or 5 years, and I'm going to end and continue this next week. I hope this has helped people. Somebody, am I emotional? You bet. Because when curiosity hits you, such a joy and a happiness. So it was about several months ago, I realized I was coming out of grief and everything grief did. The physical ramifications, which I have not spoke about, the mental torment sometimes, the fear that came on me, and I just kept walking forward through those shadows, getting to a point of healing. And suddenly I knew, wait a minute, there's whole new vistas. So then I started reading more quantum books that talked about quantum jumping. Now, those books are not put in my life as just coincidence. There are no coincidences in life. There's no randomness in life. There's always a reason for why something happens, even if it's your ignorance to ignore the field and you stick to religion. Well, then you're going to live in that reality and that will produce your life. So what happened then is I started sensing this expectation. And believe it or not, I studied the Bible for years. I read and read and read and read. Why? Because I was as curious about that book as I was about every other book. So now I look at it quite differently. But through this transition, I kept going to one verse, which, as quirky as I am, it was kind of a bizarre verse. And it was the verse in Jeremiah that Jeremiah bought a field in the face of an advancing attack. And I thought, well, should I be happy about the attack or should I be happy about the buying the field? And I thought to myself, that's what I talked about several weeks ago. There is a great darkness in this nation, on this nation, and we are not going around it. As light, we are rising above it, and we are going through, knowing that nobody has power to take your sovereignty and your freedom. You will have to come to that decision personally and draw the line at what you will or will not accept. But this darkness is a darkness of the mind. It is a darkness of control. It is a darkness narrative. I'm not focused on it anymore. Because for Jeremiah to buy a field in the advance of an attack says to me, well, I'm kind of limited then. I'm limited by what the government says. I'm limited by what the woke culture says. I'm limited by what everybody says, that I can't be myself, or am I greater? So I have returned to a position of expectation in taking these new level of quantum jumps that are coming to me. Maybe I'll just be a travel scribe, and my travel will no longer be physical, even though I hope it is. Maybe it will be spiritual. Maybe as I ascend into greater realities of the field from a quantum and scientific background, maybe I will have so many stories that I will be the I am, that I will be the I am of the integration that is taking place. So I'm going to leave the rest for next week because I don't want to go any further. But how do I want to end? Well, I'm excited. I need a glass of wine after this or something. I am joyful. After long periods of time, I am joyful. And stop living in fear. Stop living in a mentality. Jesus is not coming back, guys. There's no rapture. Heaven's in you. There's no hell. It's your subconscious. All you have to deconstruct. And please don't come on my page and try to convince me. I give you as much grace as I can, and I end up unfriending you. I'm not going to go that way again, folks. You, with your dogma, will never replace the joy and the passion that is within me. And this is contagious. It is contagious. Once you increase that energy of light and love in you, people know it and they will be drawn to it. So what are your jumps? What are the invitations that are coming into your life from the essence of your being that may have been in your childhood years ago? Don't be afraid to look back. No matter what you've been through, no matter what trauma, no matter what need of healing, you can rise up and through it into seeing this authentic person that you, first of all, will be surprised at how much you love yourself and how much you've been created to emanate from your life, and then that will be reflective of other people. So what I'm saying is that it's in me. It is in me to really encourage you to be the creative expression of God that you are called to be, and do not let anybody tell you what that is. Now, I'm speaking within wisdom, okay? There's many people that keep me in wisdom. I don't go off track much because there are many people that will confront me if I'm being judgmental or if I'm being too fast in a decision. So you have to have people around you that resonate with you, that speak wisdom into your life. And I have those people. Be yourself. I don't know how else to encourage. And maybe send me a lot of energy, because maybe I'm supposed to take more trips and maybe you're supposed to go with me. I don't know. I am pretty fearless when it comes to that. I am pretty fearless on walking the streets. I am pretty fearless on going where no man has gone before. Why? Because I'm going on intuition. I'm not going on linear logic. So I will no longer be bound by fear that holds me down, or people's opinions that hold me down, or a need to be understood which holds me down. I will increase in love. I will increase in light. I will increase in joy. And I will share with you and keep sharing what's coming in the days ahead. So part 2 next week. I hope this helped you. Be blessed. Have a great weekend. Love you all.